I was still outside the gate when I heard it. Why is she even still alive? Not shouted, not loud, just said, as if it were nothing, like brushing a crumb from a sleeve. Then a small laugh, quick, certain. I stood there, holding a warm glass dish of peach cobbler. The lid fogged with steam. Cinnamon had soaked into my sleeve. I didn't tremble. Not then. I thought for a moment of turning back, leaving the dish on the stoop like an offering. But my hands didn't loosen. My feet didn't turn. I carried it in with me. The backyard was dressed for celebration. Drooping string lights swayed in the September air. A long table covered in a paper cloth, already stained with grease, platters of ribs, plastic cups tipped in the grass, music pressed out of a phone speaker, too young, too fast, for this crowd. Oh, Mabel, we didn't know you were coming. That was Jody, my son's wife, her mouth still shaped from the words I had just overheard. I lifted the cobbler slightly. I brought this. She didn't move to take it. No one did. So I walked it to the far end of the table, placed it down, beside a sweating bowl of coleslaw, and sat in a folding chair that sagged beneath me. The ache in my back made me sit straighter, not softer. Carl, my son, lifted his beer. To family. He shouted. Glasses clinked together, brittle, like bones. Not one turned my way. My grandchildren ran past 3 times that evening. Sneakers thumping on the deck. Laughter rising like kites. Not once did they stop. Not once did they say, "Hi, Grandma." I watched Jody sweep her hand across the table, refilling plates. Tucking a napkin into her youngest's collar, she moved with certainty. The way I had once moved, I thought of my own hands years ago, cutting crusts from sandwiches, knotting laces, washing soil from knees, hands that never seemed to rest. The air smelled of citronella, charred meat, beer gone flat. I tried to imagine I was only a guest here, a distant cousin maybe, someone forgotten on the family tree. It would have been easier than knowing this was my place, mother, grandmother. And somehow, without warning, I had slid into invisibility. When the cake came out, candles flickering, Carl bent low with his children. They leaned across the frosting, cheeks flushed from running. Everyone clapped. Everyone shouted. I pressed my lips together, made no sound. No one asked me to join the photograph. The circle closed neatly. Without me, I caught my reflection in the window glass. A figure apart, blurred at the edges, holding her silence like a shawl. Later, when the plates were scraped into the trash and the lights unplugged, I walked home, the cobbler dish empty in my hands, the night pressed in around me. The street hushed, except for the steady hum of insects, and the faint bark of a dog far away. I thought about that voice again. Why is she even still alive? And I wondered, what did they mean? Alive in the body, or alive in the part of me that remembered too much? The next morning the phone rang. Lydia, a friend. "Tea?" she asked. Her voice careful, cheerful, as though she suspected the answer might be no. But I said yes. The cafe smelled of bergamot and baked scones. Rain tapped against the window panes. Steam fogged our glasses. Lydia and June were already seated, their spoons clinking gently in cups. "You're quiet," June said. "Did something happen?" I wanted to say no, to fold it away like a letter never meant to be mailed, but the words slipped out. "I think they don't want me around anymore." Lydia frowned. "Who's they?" "My family." There was a silence then. Not polite, not ordinary, a silence that made the ceiling fan hum louder. June set her spoon down. "You've given them everything. Don't start doubting yourself now." Her words sounded strong, but they wavered, like fabric in the wind. They didn't fill the hollow I carried home. That evening, I wrote in my notebook, "What is the weight of being unwanted? Lighter than air, heavier than stone." Weeks passed. The distance between me and Carl grew, not with arguments, but with silence, a silence that multiplied. Like shadows at dusk, one night I asked him directly, "Do you not want me here anymore?" My voice was soft, but steady. He rubbed his face, sighed as though he had aged 10 years in a breath. "Mom, it's just, Jody thinks we need our own space. You're always around. It feels crowded, crowded." That was the word he chose, after all the years I had spent folding myself smaller, so he could take up more room. I packed slowly. Each drawer revealed another piece of myself I had almost forgotten. Frank's old chessboard, my wedding ring tucked in a box of buttons, Ruby's drawing of a cat with 6 legs. I touched each one carefully, as though handling fragile evidence, evidence of a life that might be disputed. When I moved into the small apartment across town, the landlord showed me how the window stuck in the heat, how the radiator clanked like an old man coughing. He apologized for the noise. I told him it was fine. The sound would remind me I was still alive. The first night, the silence was sharp, not the smothering silence of being unwelcome, but the kind that stretched. Like a blank page, I sat at the little table, placed the chessboard in front of me. The pieces stood like sentinels, waiting. I remembered Frank's hands. Steady as he moved the knight, his voice low. "Don't fold in, Mabel. Never close yourself away." I had folded in, of course. Life presses you into corners, but here, now, with no one watching, I set the pieces out and played both sides, and then a knock at the door. The knock came again, light, hesitant. When I opened the door, she was standing there, Ruby, her hair tangled, one shoelace dragging. Eyes wide as if she had wandered into a place she wasn't sure she belonged. "Grandma," she whispered. "I wanted to see you." She slipped past me into the small apartment. Her hands brushed the chipped paint of the walls. Her shoes left faint marks on the floor I had just mopped. I didn't mind. She looked at the chessboard on the table. "The pieces waiting, half played. You play?" she asked. "Your grandfather taught me." She sat down, picked up the rook, turned it in her hands like a secret. "Can you teach me?" That was the beginning. Every Friday she came, sometimes with a backpack heavy with books, sometimes with nothing at all. She learned quickly, her brow furrowed, her lips pressed tight, her fingers hovering before each move. We played long games, quiet games, the kind where the ticking clock outside meant more than winning. Once, she said, "They don't know I come here." I asked why. She shrugged. "Dad says you're better off on your own, but I don't think you should be alone." Her voice cracked, but she lifted her chin. At that moment, I wanted to hold her so tightly the world would never touch her. But I only reached for the board. "Your move," I said. The weeks folded into months. Autumn leaves blew into the stairwell. Winter frost made the window glass bloom white. Ruby kept coming. She grew taller. Her laugh deepened, carried further. Her knight began to leap more boldly across the board, and always when she left, she hugged me fast, as though afraid the hug might be taken away. But secrets never stay folded, not forever. One evening the phone rang. Carl. His voice was tight, frayed at the edges. "Is Ruby with you?" "Yes," I said. "She's here." The silence that followed was not ordinary. "I told you not to meddle," he said. "She's our daughter, not yours to confuse." Confuse. The word struck deeper than I expected, as though my presence was not love, but distortion. When he arrived, his footsteps shook the stairwell. Ruby's hand found mine. He stood in the doorway, eyes hard. "Ruby, home, now!" She looked up at me. Her eyes asked a question I couldn't answer. She left, slowly, each step echoing down the stairs. And then, silence. The apartment was smaller after she went. The radiator louder, the shadows longer. I thought of calling her, but I didn't. Children shouldn't carry the weight of bridges their parents have burned. 2 weeks later, another knock, stronger this time. Ruby again, her eyes wet, cheeks red. They said, "I can't come." They said, "You don't care about us." But I know that's not true. She pulled something from her backpack, a paper, a drawing of a queen chess piece. Bold lines, shaded crown. She pushed it into my hands. "For you," she said. I held it. The paper soft from her grip. I didn't cry. Not then, but I felt something settle inside me. Not grief, not anger, a steadiness. The kind that comes when you stop asking for doors to open, and instead, you build your own. Spring came. I filled the apartment with small plants. Geraniums on the sill, basil on the counter, their roots steady in their pots. Lydia visited. We sat by the window, sipping tea. "You look lighter," she said. "I've stopped waiting," I told her. For them to see me, for them to want me, for them to remember who I was. One morning, a letter came, not from Carl, from Ruby, folded notebook paper. Blue ink, uneven. "Grandma, I'll always find you. Even if they tell me not to. I'll come when I can. Don't forget me." I pressed the paper to my chest. It smelled faintly of pencil shavings and bubble gum. No perfume in the world more precious. Years blur when you're no longer counted in. Birthdays, graduations, holidays. I wasn't there, but sometimes. On a Friday, a soft knock came, and Ruby stood there, taller, older, her smile the same. We sat at the chessboard, moved the pieces slowly, talked about nothing and everything. Once, she said, "They don't talk about you." At home, I nodded. Words weren't needed, because I had already learned. Being erased by others doesn't mean you vanish. Now, when I walk past a mirror, I don't look for what's missing. I see a woman who held on. Even when she wasn't wanted, even when the table closed around her and no chair was saved, I keep Ruby's drawing above the chessboard. The queen standing tall, unshaken. I look at it before every game. It reminds me I am not a shadow. I am not a ghost. I am still here. And if anyone asks, why is she even still alive? The answer is simple. Because I choose to be. Closing line for narrator soft. Certain. Lingering. I am still here.